Tonight, a man dies underground at a Broken Hill mine site. Investigations now underway. And the state government set to pitch in to help local schools pay their bills.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening. A man has died on the way to hospital after he was found unresponsive inside a Broken Hill mine shaft. The 55-year-old was found underground in mining company Pirelia's South Mine when he was located by a co-worker yesterday afternoon. Our reporter Patrick Reinke has the details.
Investigations into the 55-year-old man's death continue today, with specialists from the Department of Trade and Investment arriving in the city. Local police are not considering the man's death as suspicious, but will prepare a report for the coroner. At about 3:30 yesterday afternoon, the man was found in an underground area of Pirelia's southern operations. He was unresponsive when a co-worker discovered him. The man was evacuated out of the South Mine and treated by paramedics who arrived at the scene. Unfortunately, the man died on his way to hospital to receive treatment. There is speculation the man may have suffered a heart attack while underground. The man's death is a sombre incident in what has been a very prosperous 2017 for the mining company. Work is continuing on preparing the North Mine to reopen within the next 4 months, as Pirelia awaits a mining licence approval from the state's Resources and Energy Department. Investigations continue.
Patrick Reinke reporting there. A man has faced Port Augusta's Magistrates Court today, charged with assault and drugs offences. He was arrested in the state's far north back in March. Amelia Simpson was in court. She has the details.
The 39-year-old man faced Port Augusta's Magistrates Court today, charged with a number of offences relating to the alleged supply of drugs to a child. He's also facing charges relating to a number of incidences of alleged assault. The court heard the drug in question was cannabis and that the offences occurred from November 2015 to January 2016 in Freegon in the state's far north. The court heard his lawyer needed to represent him with the presence of a translator, but with the limited availability of Pitjantjatjara translators, the man will remain on remand. He will now appear in court in 2 weeks' time on the 29th of May.
Amelia Simpson reporting there. A man will face court on weapons charges after a search of his home. Police conducted a search of a Minnepa property just before 1 p.m. last Friday and allegedly located a crossbow, a double-edged knife and unsecured ammunition. The weapons were then seized by police. The 56-year-old local was reported for possessing a prohibited weapon and other firearms offences. He'll appear in court at a later date. 4 cars have been burnt out around Broken Hill over the weekend, with police calling on any witnesses to come forward. 1 car was left at the same site of a four-wheel drive, which had been stolen and destroyed 2 weeks prior. The 4x4 was involved in a short police chase before escaping. 2 other cars were found on Menindee Road and on the Barrier Highway. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Utility bills for public schools around the region will be cut thanks to the latest initiative from the state government. The Education Minister announced the cuts last week, and Port Pirie schools are welcoming the announcement.
The principal of John Pirie Secondary School is ecstatic with the support from the state government. All their utility bills will be cut, saving the school a substantial amount of money.
Certainly for us, we're expecting a recurrent up to $80,000 saving annually. Which is certainly wonderful money to have back into education.
And already the school is thinking of ways they can best use the savings.
We have some initiatives at the moment. Learning technology is an area that we're keen to grow in our school, so kids' capacity to work with digital media and in digital learning environments.
Education Minister Susan Close says support from other principals is flowing in.
We're putting $65 million into this over the next 4 years, which means effectively $65 million more going into schools directly.
And she's attributing the funding back to the Gonski Review.
We in South Australia stuck to our end of the Gonski deal, the 6-year deal, and in years 5 and 6 the money starts to escalate and we're using that to educate our children.
John Pirie aren't the only winners in the region. Every public school will benefit.
This means that we free up our schools to concentrate on education and at the same time we make sure that we get some more money into the system.
Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news, a power dispute. Did the market provider let down big business in our region? The details ahead. Welcome back. The Australian energy market operator has been accused of breaching its duty of care to South Australians during last September's blackout by the state's Small Business Commissioner. John Chapman has questioned why they weren't in a better position to manage the grid, which caused damage to Nearstar Smelter in Port Pirie and Arium's blast furnace in Whyalla. John Hunt joins us now. John, what were his concerns?
Tim, there were a number of concerns, but the main one he focused on was why AEMO was on notice about severe weather, yet didn't take precautions. He's questioned whether AEMO should be prepared for the possibility that weather events are more severe than predicted. Mr. Chapman made the comments in a submission to a parliamentary inquiry into last September's blackout. He says AEMO had knowledge there was to be severe weather on the day of the blackout, which could cause potential issues. And even though Electronet, the state's transmission lines operator, didn't believe the conditions required a warning, Mr. Chapman says they should have been prepared. On the day of the storm, 3 transmission lines in our region were brought down by wind gusts of up to 200 kilometres an hour. He says there are plenty of occasions where the conditions don't match the forecasts and precautions should have been put in place. Furthermore, Mr. Chapman also questioned why AEMO was unaware the wind farms in the mid-north had software settings to protect themselves in severe weather events. On the day of the blackout, the feature kicked in at 9 wind farms and was a major reason the state went black. His conclusion states that AEMO failed to provide a duty of care to South Australians by not being appropriately ready for a weather event that was not unforeseeable considering predicted conditions. He says the resulting blackout caused multi-million-dollar damage to Port Pirie's lead smelter and the blast furnace at the Whyalla Steelworks. In particular, the smelter's operators Nearstar estimated the cost of the power outage was up to $5 million. The submission is one of a number received by the Parliamentary Committee investigating the incident. Energy operator AGL has also slammed the market operator for not being prepared. So it seems AEMO will continue to be under the pump while this investigation continues. Tim?
OK, thanks, John. John Hunt reporting there from Whyalla. A man has been caught drink driving over 3 times the legal limit in Port Lincoln last night. Police stopped his ute on Tasman Terrace after receiving a call from the public about an intoxicated man about to get behind the wheel. Patrols conducted a breath test where the 46-year-old recorded a blood alcohol reading of 0.161. He was issued with an immediate loss of licence and will be summoned to appear in court at a later date. Changes to education standards will require Year 12 students in New South Wales to meet a minimum literacy and numeracy standard if they want to achieve their high school certificate. The changes set to come into effect by 2020.
The New South Wales Education Standards Authority says the change is vital for students moving forward in life. Students will have to pass online tests in reading, writing and numeracy in the lead up to achieving their HSC.
Every student in Broken Hill can be assured that when they take their HSC, be it to a area of further study, to an employer, that they're giving them the guarantee that they've got a standard of literacy and numeracy that will allow them to be successful.
The change comes as thousands of students across the country complete their NAPLAN testing. If Year 9 students achieve Band 8 results in this year's NAPLAN, they won't have to take the online test. But one local is sceptical of NAPLAN's legitimacy.
I have grave doubts about how much we can rely on the validity of the NAPLAN test anyway. It is a very, very small test which has such a great deal of importance attached to it now, when really, what is it? It's supposed to be a diagnostic tool used by teachers.
While Ms Clark welcomes the minimum requirement for literacy and numeracy, she has concerns about the lack of resources available for students to improve if they're failing.
It seems to me that the emphasis is far more on testing than it is on providing the resources necessary for these students to be able to improve their literacy and numeracy standards.
Patrick Roinke, Southern Cross News.
Well, it's hoped the main street of Port Pirie will be safer with the introduction of new light poles. Several poles will be planted along Ellen Street, but they'll also have banners installed to brighten up the appearance of the area.
Driving down Port Pirie's main drag, Ellen Street, you'll soon be confronted with banners displaying the latest the city has to offer.
The banners themselves are interchangeable. and also we can put Christmas decorations up. So whatever is happening in and around the region, key events, we'll be able to change the banners to suit.
The banners will be made possible thanks to new light poles that will be installed along the street, and the council is rapt to announce they will coincide with stage 1 of the CBD project.
It's actually a separate project to the CBD upgrade, but we have got banner poles in Florence Street upgrade, so the two will link together through the banner poles.
Yep. Extra lights will also help illuminate the street at night time.
Going with LED means it's more cost effective and energy efficient for council to run, and we're looking at I guess a more modern light pole to add to the attractiveness of the CBD.
Part of the road has been closed so the contractors can work in the median strip, but interruption has been kept to a minimal.
We probably had a week where there was overlap, but now that Alexander Street's open to traffic, hopefully it won't cause too many issues with Ellen Street down to one lane on one side of the road.
It's hoped the poles will be installed by the end of June this year. Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. When we return after the break, some Hot Wheels on display as the Port Augusta Motor Show roars into town. We'll head along next. Welcome back. Well, our recent dry spell is set to come to an end with a cold front bringing some much needed rain to our region this week, but it looks likely to be just a flash in the pan. The Weather Bureau predicting a dry winter ahead.
After a wetter than usual summer, our region's autumn has been mostly dry and sunny, with locals enjoying every minute of it. But there's a change on the horizon, with a cold front set to bring a change in conditions beginning tomorrow.
It's more of a wintertime low, so a little bit different to some of the fine, clear weather we've had over the last month or two.
A low-pressure system is moving across the Great Australian Bight, with showers and isolated thunderstorms predicted. It's expected the Eyre Peninsula and mid-north will receive up to 15 millimetres of rain by Friday. And while it doesn't sound like a lot, Mr Bass says it'll be a boost for farmers heading into crop-growing season.
It will be a nice start to the season to bring a bit more rainfall to the growing areas, and we are expecting, potentially another front to come through next weekend as well.
As for winter, well, it's another story. The Bureau is on El Niño watch, with the next 3 months expected to produce drier than average conditions.
It does look like the longer term, the next 3 months, are tending to be drier than the average across Eyre Peninsula. And in fact, that's a bit of a story across South Australia.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
The Port Augusta Motor Show saw thousands of people flock to the city's Wharflands Plaza on Saturday. The show boasted displays for kids right through to enthusiasts, speedboats on the Gulf, and V8 supercar driver Chaz Mostert among the visitors.
After months of planning, the Port Augusta Motor Show saw crowds of people flock to the wharf, some displaying their shiny handiwork and others satisfying their need for speed.
So this year, entrants, we've got them from all over South Australia, from the Riverland, Port Lincoln, Roxby, Mid-North, Eyre Peninsula and York Peninsula, so it's really quite exciting to see all the different cars come together.
Boasting new boats from the Adelaide Speedboat Club, the Mammoth Truckworks truck and 140 motor show entrants, Saturday marked the 6th show since 2009.
There are different categories, so they look at the different age breaks, and they also look at like best interior, best undercarriage, best paintwork, so just depending on what category they actually enter for, whether it's muscle cars or...
This year, V8 supercar driver Chaz Mostert came along for the ride.
Yeah, the motor show is fantastic. I haven't seen this many old cars in one place before, so it's pretty cool to check it out. Some of them are just in prestige condition. It's really exciting to get down here in Port Augusta too to check it all out.
And Chaz says he's had a good start to his racing season and is currently sitting at 5th in the Supercars Championship.
31 points off the lead, so it's good. We're nearly 1/3 through the year, so we're just going to keep trucking along, keep being consistent and keep making gains when we can.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Tennis players will no longer have to play in the dark after the Port Augusta Tennis Association unveiled its new lights on Friday night. As part of a plan to rejuvenate tennis, the association gained a grant to install 9 new lights. The $165,000 project means more opportunities for players to train in the winter months. The club's president says it will boost player numbers and they now won't have to complete their games before twilight.
Each week that got darker and darker earlier, so now we can extend it a bit longer if needed in our summer competition, or we can create whole new competitions.
Turning to the weekend's footy now, and there was plenty of entertaining action over the weekend. Jason Kemp joins us now with all the results. Jace, Port Lincoln hosted their first night game of the season.
Yeah, that's right, Tim. Tasmans met Waybacks under lights at Ravendale Oval in cold and blustery conditions. Both teams succumbing to the wind early, failing to fire in front of goals. Tasmans missing plenty of chances, while Waybacks made them pay on the scoreboard. The first half saw both teams squander easy chances. Tasmans managing just a single major in the first quarter, but inaccurate kicking from Waybacks kept the Roosters in the game. However, it was a different story after half-time. Waybacks adding 8 unanswered goals and making light work of Tasman's defence. Waybacks running out 66-point victors. In the other games, Mallee Park remain undefeated this season, dominating Marble Range by 72 points. Meantime, Boston's are still to notch a win this season, going down to Lincoln South by 12 goals and remain firmly planted at the foot of the ladder. Tumby took home the points over the Ramblers, United won easily over Ayr, and Cummins edged out Lock by 7 points. Turning to the Spencer Gulf, and West continued their winning streak, taking the points from Central. While a tight match on Saturday saw Port steal a win from the reigning premiers by just 7 points. And in the Sunday game, a patchy first half from the Lions gave Solly a handy lead. Lions fought back in the second half, but couldn't get over the line, 80-59. Over to the Steel City, West dominated South in a one-sided affair, while Centrals come from behind to defeat the gallant Roos by 13 points. Rupina unable to stop Cameron Eadie up forward, who snagged 6, and in a nail-biting finish, Stella Dwellers, the Bays fell agonisingly short by 5 points to steal a win from North. Heading over to the Silver City, in a fiery affair between West and Central, tempers boiled over as Central took the ascendancy from their rivals by 35 points. In the other game, North accounted for South in a scrappy contest, North showing their skill to upset the premiership favourites on their home turf. Over on the York Peninsula, Parsketville defeated Ardrossan by 56 points, York thrashed Southern Eagles by 100 points, the Crows took home the points against Moonta, while Kadina edged out Wallaroo by 3 points. And in the northern areas, there were also wins for Crystalbrook, Southern Flinders and Ururu. So there you have it, Tim, a couple of big wins and a couple of big upsets as well. I'll be back tomorrow night to talk about all the rest of the sporting results.
Good stuff. Thank you, Jace. We'll see you tomorrow. Jason Kemp there. Well, stay with us. After the break, we'll have a look at the local weather for the week ahead. Well, all that sunshine we've been seeing recently is on its way out, and we've seen that change start to push through today. It was a bit of a cloudy day this Monday, 24 today's top in Port Augusta with 23 in Whyalla and in Port Pirie. Port Lincoln today on 21 and a fine 20 in Broken Hill. On the national satellite image, cloud pushing in from the Bight is set to see us cop a spell of showers over the next few days. Out on the waters, the winds to 15 knots and northerly, the seas to 1.5 metres into the south. Sunrise is just after 7 o'clock. So showers set to arrive into tomorrow right across the region. Wet and 25 in Port Augusta and 23 for Whyalla. Port Lincoln 22, Port Pirie on 24 and a fine 23 in Broken Hill. Then as we look ahead, showers continuing all week for most parts. 20 the top in Port Lincoln on Wednesday, then 21 for Thursday and Friday. Cleve with 20 right through, and a similar picture for Woodner. Whyalla with showers and 21, then 20 for Thursday. Port Augusta also with 21 for the week as those showers continue. Kadina 21 and 20. Port Pirie also hovering around 20 this week as those showers start to push through. Clare with 18 degrees and then 16. Broken Hill will get the wet stuff on Wednesday with 22 degrees, increasing to rain later in the week. And that is the local news for this Monday evening. Hope you had a great weekend. Don't forget you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email. We'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hatfield from the Southern Cross News team. Have a good evening. Good night.